Unions expressed concern about impact of plan to sell off Park and Shop on employees. In Japan, the ruling coalition expected to win upper house elections, and normal operations at Beijing Capital International Airport.
Hello and a very good evening. There are now reports that Hutchison Whampoa wants to sell its supermarket chain Park and Shop for $4 billion US, double the original estimate. Unions have expressed concern about the impact the sale might have on employees, but the government says it will help those affected. Rani Samtani reports.
Hutchison Whampoa chairman Lee Ka-shing refused to comment further on the sale of his supermarket chain this morning. The speculation has fueled concerns about the sale's impact on Hong Kong's economy and whether the tycoon has lost faith in the city. But Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam brushed off those concerns today.
In terms of Hong Kong's economic competitiveness and in terms of our economic fundamentals, we are doing very well. So I'm not at all concerned about the individual business decisions of enterprises about their own investment. I suggest that we don't read too much into this individual enterprise's decision.
She also denied rumors the sale was a sign of a feud between Hong Kong's richest man and the government. But workers are worried. The Confederation of Trade Unions says at least 10 employees have already appealed to it for help. They've been asked to sign an agreement transferring their employment contracts from A.S. Watson & Co., which wholly owns Park & Shop, to the supermarket subsidiary. Employees have until Thursday to sign the agreement, and the change will take effect on the 1st of August.
The problem is the workers think that is only the first step. The second step, the management will sell the new company to the new employer. So they are worrying that if they agree on the transfer of employment relation, whether the new employer will cut down their position and will cut down their salary as well as their benefits.
Concerned Park & Shop employees are calling for more information on the transfer of their employment. But the Labor Department has reassured that employees will be protected. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Matthew Chung says the department will provide assistance and legal services to employees affected by the acquisition. Chung reassured employees not to worry, as there is a strong demand for manpower in the retail industry. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
A forum on universal suffrage was abruptly stopped after clashes broke out between Occupy Central supporters and opponents of that movement. Tempers flared throughout the forum hosted by the Hong Kong Association of Young Commentators. The pro-Occupy Central student group Scholarism was shouted down during a speech, and one member was taken to hospital after he was kicked during the clash. The organizers expressed regret that they were forced to scrap the event midway, but they said they will continue to hold these discussions and invite different voices in society to take part. They called on people to talk about Hong Kong's political future in a peaceful manner. Earlier at the forum, Executive Councillor Cheng Yu Tong said there must be a screen mechanism in future chief executive elections if top leaders are to be selected through universal suffrage. He argued this would prevent unsuitable people like porn stars from being elected, but not everyone agreed.
I don't mind people joining. We should not discriminate against people because of their profession. What we want is a system whereby people who can get the sufficient nominations, then they can be nominated and will stand for election. And we have to trust and respect the wisdom of the Hong Kong people to choose the chief executive that can work with Beijing and can get the support of the Hong Kong people to run Hong Kong.
Any nomination process must be some kind of screening. The crucial question is whether the process is open and fair. It should not be any arbitrary process by which some people, according to some unknown principles, can decide whether anyone can run or not. Now that is the kind of screening process I believe people are against.
Some regional news now. An exit poll suggests Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and his ruling coalition are heading for a clear victory in the country's upper house elections. Victory would allow his government to ramp up its aggressive policy of Abenomics while giving the ruling party control of both chambers for the first time in 6 years. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe looks set to cement his grip on power, with the Liberal Democratic Party and its partner New Komeito going for big gains in today's election for the upper house of Parliament or House of Councillors. Half of the 242 seats in the chamber are up for grabs. It shouldn't be much of a surprise given Abe's surging popularity from his aggressive policies of big fiscal spending and monetary easing to reboot Japan's economy. Abe's attempts to revive Japan's nationalistic spirit and adopt a more hawkish stance overseas, especially in disputes with Beijing over a chain of islands in the East China Sea, has also boosted his ratings. A win would give Abe's ruling coalition an overall majority in both houses and set the stage for Japan's first stable government since Junichiro Koizumi left office in 2006. It would also pave the way for Abe to achieve his goal of revising Japan's post-war pacifist constitution, giving Tokyo more military leverage, which would no doubt alarm neighbours South Korea and China. The prospect of victory caps a remarkable comeback for Abe, who was cast into the political wilderness after a parliamentary defeat led to his resignation in 2007. Abe will no doubt be emboldened by the prospect of control of both houses. It would be an endorsement of his Abenomics economic program, which has lifted the stock market, boosted business confidence and helped exporters by weakening the yen. But Abe faces a decision this fall on whether to follow through on raising the sales tax next April from 5% to 8%, a move many worry will derail the recovery. Well, operations at Beijing Capital International Airport have returned to normal 1 day after a man in a wheelchair set off a bomb in the international arrival section. Apart from police patrols at the airport's Terminal 3, the scene of the explosion last night, there have been no other signs of security being tightened. People can still freely enter the terminal building without going through security checks. The bombing suspect, Ji Zhongxing, lost his left arm in the explosion. Mainland press reports say he's been taken away from the hospital by police. His brother told TVB over the phone that Ji lost the use of both of his legs in 2005 after being beaten up by security personnel in the city of Dongguan in Guangdong. He's since filed numerous petitions over the incident, but to no avail. Elsewhere in the world, authorities are picking up the pieces after a string of car bombings left at least 30 people dead in the mainly Shiite area of Baghdad. Most of the attacks struck busy commercial areas where people were gathering to shop and socialize after breaking their daily fast for the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. It's unclear who was behind the attacks. Still, it's renewed fears the country could sink back into sectarian conflict, which had threatened to tear Iraq apart only a few years ago. In Europe, 6 people were arrested after violence erupted in a Paris suburb following a police check last Thursday of a woman who was wearing a veil. Authorities said the incident happened after a crowd gathered outside a police station to protest against the arrest of a man who allegedly assaulted an officer during an identity check on his wife. The attacker's wife was entirely veiled at the time. Riot police were called in to break up the crowd and order was restored the following morning.
4 Costa Concordia crew members and a company official were sentenced to jail in Italy yesterday over that deadly cruise ship disaster last year. This leaves only the captain on trial. The 5 received sentences of between 18 and 34 months for multiple charges of manslaughter, negligence, and shipwreck. Only 2 may serve any prison time under the plea bargain accepted by the judge. 32 people died when the Costa Concordia, a luxury liner carrying 3,200 passengers, struck rocks off the Italian island of Giglio in January of last year. Court proceedings for the ship's captain, Francesco Schettino, are still underway. His next hearing is slated for September 23rd. And police in the U.S. city of Houston say 4 men living in a dungeon-like garage told investigators they were held against their will for 10 years. Police say 3 of the men are being treated at the hospital and appear to be malnourished. All of them state they were held like prisoners in a garage that had no bathroom and no beds. The men claim they were forced to live in the garage so that their captor could cash their disability and public assistance checks. One person has been detained but not charged yet. Investigators are still trying to determine just how long the men lived in that garage. And still ahead in our newscast, new community car service vouchers for the elderly. New SchoolNet being considered to solve North District school place shortage. And the annual opening of the French capital's urban beach. Welcome back. Hundreds of people marched outside federal courthouses throughout America yesterday, 1 week after George Zimmerman was found not guilty of gunning down an unarmed black teenager. The masses are hoping to ban the law that gave Zimmerman the right to shoot Trayvon Martin. Hundreds of people turned out for the Trayvon Martin rally in Miami, calling the Stand Your Ground law a license to kill. Trayvon's father warned blacks in America it's time they stand their ground by working to ban the law that permits the shooting of anyone who seems threatening.
I vowed to Trayvon that day, when he was laying in his casket, that I would use every ounce of energy in my body to seek justice for him.
Even though protesters gathered peacefully in Washington, D.C., there's still outrage over a jury's decision not to punish the shooter.
There's no way that a man can kill an unarmed teenager and go scot-free.
In the state of Pennsylvania, the crowds found solace in chanting their support for the victim. We are one! We are one! Demonstrations also took place in Oakland, California. The crowd hoisted signs asking that if the shooter can stand his ground, why can't an unarmed boy do the same? The rain in Atlanta, Georgia didn't stop Trayvon Martin supporters from making their voices heard. In the middle of her concert last week, musical superstar Beyoncé held a moment of silence for Trayvon Martin. So she and her husband, Jay-Z, came to support Trayvon's mother as the masses and civil rights leaders gathered in New York.
Not only do I vow to you to do what I can for Trayvon Martin, I promise you I'm going to work hard for your children as well.
There should not be a law that means that if you think you're under threat, you got the right to kill somebody. Yes. That law hurts blacks, whites, Latinos, Asians.
Over in Los Angeles, many in the crowds took to wearing hoodies, like the one Trayvon wore the night he was cast as a would-be criminal.
We have to take action, positive, absolutely nonviolent action to bring about a world that works for everybody.
Even though Zimmerman did not invoke Florida's Stand Your Ground law and relied on self-defense, the judge instructed jurors to consider it as a legitimate defense. 9/11 calls cast Zimmerman as a white man racially profiling Trayvon as a black criminal. Trayvon's family just wants justice for a situation that was clearly blurred between black and white.
And here's some good news now for elderly people. Starting tomorrow, eligible senior citizens can start applying for the new community care service vouchers. The government hopes this will encourage more enterprises to offer more services for the elderly. Evelyn Lang reports.
Starting September, eligible senior citizens will receive a voucher worth $5,800, which entitles them to home care and daycare services. These include physiotherapy sessions, delivery of meals, and transportation services. Under the scheme, the participants can choose their own service providers. This scheme is to replace the current CARE program, under which the Social Welfare Department organizes care services for the elderly people. About 1,500 people are expected to join the first phase of this pilot scheme. Those eligible for the scheme will receive an invitation letter to be sent out tomorrow. Secretary for Labour and Welfare Matthew Cheung says this new concept of money follows user will give participants freedom of choice and flexibility. He also hopes the new scheme will encourage more businesses to offer services for the elderly people. Currently, there are more than 60 non-government service providers under the new program. The first phase of the new scheme will last 2 years and will only cover elderly people in 10 districts, including Wong Tai Sin and Kwun Tong. Senior citizens who are moderately impaired and are waiting for subsidized community care service or residential care service will be eligible for the scheme. However, participants should note that the services are not totally free. They have to pay up to $2,500 for the services, depending on their household income. Lawmaker Fernando Cheung says this scheme will mean extra work for the service providers. To ensure the new scheme will run smoothly, he's urged the government to offer more resources to these providers so that they can hire more staff to meet the increased workload. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
Environmental group Green Sense and a few lawmakers are urging the government to reconsider a proposal to include the Fanling Golf Club in the New Territories Northeast Redevelopment Plan. They propose the government use 2 of the 3 18-hole golf courses instead of seizing land from villagers. They believe the move can preserve farmlands, provide as much land as the government intended, and also accommodate 80,000 people. Earlier, the government said it's impossible to include the golf club in the current redevelopment plan, but would consider using it when they redevelop the northern New Territories instead.
The Undersecretary for Education said today the government is considering various options to deal with a shortage of primary school places in the North District. They include setting up a separate school net for mainland residents born to Hong Kong parents coming to Hong Kong to attend school. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is urging the government to make use of abandoned village schools in the New Territories to help solve this problem. Rachel Lung reports.
This year, the number of cross-border primary school students reached 3,200, with more than half settling into North District schools. That left many children living in the district having to go to schools outside their area. A further increase in cross-border students is expected in the future. Speaking to TVB News today, the Undersecretary for Education said the government will come up with a new plan next month to tackle the problem.
One of the options that we have been exploring is whether we can change the sort of the central allocation mechanism, whereby for local students, for students living in Hong Kong, they allocate a school net according to where they live. We are thinking whether those CBS students, whether it's possible to have a separate school net or a separate list of schools for them to choose from.
In the meantime, the Democratic Party said has found a solution, making use of abandoned village schools like this one.
The government is determined to solve the problem of the insufficient vacancy of school in Northern District. The government can negotiate with different policy bureau to reopen the village school.
The party examined 11 village schools in Fanling and Shengshui and found 3 that would be suitable. It's suggesting that these schools be reopened as additional branches of existing schools. It's estimated that they can provide some 600 primary school places in the area.
The Democratic Party said the school was refurbished just before it closed down in 2004 and would only need around a year to prepare before it can start taking in students to meet the growing demand.
But Calvin Young said since the number of Hong Kong children born to mainland parents entering primary school will peak in about 4 years' time and then begin to go down, it is not feasible to reopen these village schools. Rachel Lang, TVB News.
All right, Tony, what do you have for us in sports today?
Okay, we got golf and we got cricket. Golf is still that sort of changing lead. Nobody's really sure who's going to get their hands on the claret jug. It could be Tiger, but we're not quite sure yet. It promises to be a wild finish at the British Open at Murrayfield. England's Lee Westwood leads by 2 shots, but Tiger Woods and others are in striking distance of taking home the claret jug. James Wong reports.
9 golfers are within 5 shots of the lead entering today's final round, and they are all chasing Lee Westwood. Westwood fired a 1 under 70 on Saturday and stands at 3 under overall. The 40-year-old leads by 2 strokes as he aims to become the first Englishman to win the Open Championship in more than 20 years.
Well, actually, I'm not in a high-pressure situation because I'm going to go and have dinner, and I'm so good with a knife and fork now that I don't feel any pressure at all.
Not quite sure we believe that. Westwood need only look at the first page of the leaderboard with 5 major champions in pursuit. Tiger Woods will be playing in the next to last group with Adam Scott. Woods 2 back with the Masters champ a stroke further behind.
There's a bunch of guys who have a chance to win this tournament, and all of us need to really play well in order to win it.
Second round leader Miguel Angel Jimenez slumped to a 6 over 77. He's 6 back, while Phil Mickelson is 5 behind with 18 to play. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
At the Ashes, Joe Root goes in search of a double century against Australia at Lord's. The Yorkshire batsman scored an unbeaten 178 on the 3rd day of the 2nd Test. The 22-year-old became England's youngest Ashes centurion at the home of cricket. The hosts lost only 2 wickets to close on 333 for 5 and lead by 566 runs. England's Kevin Pietersen will miss the rest of the Test due to an injury to his left calf. In football, David Moyes picked up his first win as Manchester United's manager as the Red Devils beat Australia's A-League All-Stars in Sydney, and they beat them 5-1. Jesse Lingard and Danny Welbeck scored 2 goals apiece. Lingard's second was a thing of a beauty as he fired into the top right corner. Substitute Robin van Persie also found the net late in the game. And later this month, United will visit Hong Kong as part of their pre-season tour.
And finally, Parisians and tourists in France's capital flocked to the banks of the River Seine for the annual opening of the city's urban beach. Taking advantage of the hot and beautiful weather, people relaxed and played on the beach right in the middle of the city. The Paris Plage also features free concerts, a game area, and a place where people can exercise. It's open daily from morning till midnight. So if you're planning a trip to the City of Love this summer, you have until the middle of August to go and visit. And that's our news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Hello everyone, it was mainly cloudy with a few showers today. At 5 p.m, a broad trough of lower pressure over the northern part of the South China Sea was bringing unsettled weather to the coast of Guangdong. Today's temperatures range from 26.3 to 29.9 degrees, and the current temperature is 28 degrees Celsius. A trace amount of rainfall has been recorded since midnight, and the thunderstorm warning is now in force. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? Mainly cloudy with showers and a few thunderstorms. Temperatures range from 26 to 30 degrees. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 10 to 70 and the pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 6. Now, here's the latest global weather update. Cloudy in Shanghai and Xiamen. Thunderstorms in Guangzhou, showers in Macau. Cloudy in Beijing and Tokyo. Rain in Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Sunny intervals in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. Showers in Karachi, rain in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, sunny intervals in Nairobi. Sunny intervals in Brisbane and Auckland. Cloudy in Toronto and New York. Sunny in Vancouver, cloudy in Los Angeles. Sunny in Paris, Amsterdam and Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a great evening.